now.
So I'm going last all. You can stand up here.
You can stand up here. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Good morning to ladies and gentlemen of the press and also other people who are watching on live right now. My name is Daoud, D-A-W-D, last name Walid, W-A-L-I-D, and I am the Executive Director of the Michigan Chapter of CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And today, CAIR-Michigan, unfortunately, we are announcing the designation of the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor as an institution of particular concern. Since the tragic events that unfolded in Gaza since October 7th, 2023, we have witnessed a pattern of disparate treatment against Muslims, Arabs, and anti-genocide student protesters on the campus of the University of Michigan. And unfortunately, these series of events recently triggered the Office of CAIR-Michigan to file a federal complaint with the Department of Education, and in particular, one audio of University President Ono making comments showing that there's a double standard as far as the investigation of Islamophobia on campus in regards to other acts of discrimination. Oh boy, here we go. Yeah, I got it. Again, we filed a complaint with the Department of Education in regards to an audio of President Ono that clearly shows that there is a double standard of how Islamophobia is dealt with on the University of Michigan campus in regards to other acts of discrimination. So two things before I call up our staff attorney to make comments about the series of different events and complaints that we've had pertaining to the University of Michigan within the past year. Number one, in regards to our complaint with the Department of Education, we call on the Department of Justice to hopefully expand their investigation of the University of Michigan in regards to a pattern or a series of events of targeting free speech, desperate treatment against Arab and Muslim populations at the university that stretched beyond just that one audio recording. Moreover, we call on the University of Michigan to hire an independent investigator to do an audit on their university, such as how cases are inticked in the university in terms of anti-Muslim discrimination in comparison with other forms of discrimination. Also, was there any communication with university officials, including the Board of Regents, in contacting State Attorney General Dana Nessel to file charges and indict students at the University of Michigan, in which Washtenaw County prosecutor didn't seem fit or eager to file those indictments against university students. With that, I turn the microphone over to CAIR-Michigan staff attorney.
Good morning, everybody. Amy Ducouré, A-M-Y, D-O-U-K-O-U-R-E, CAIR-Michigan staff attorney. And I stand here before you today, very disappointed that we had to institute this designation against the University of Michigan. University of Michigan has been seen as a college that is progressive and allows for free speech. It's intended to be a place of inclusion. And what we've seen since October 7th is that actually the University of Michigan is a place of exclusion. It's a place of exclusion for individuals of Arab and Muslim descent, as well as those who are anti-genocide activists. And our concerns go beyond just the leaked audio tape from President Ono. But what President Ono's leaked audio tape indicates to us is what we knew all along, that this is a top-down policy that's been instituted at the University of Michigan. And it's very clear from that tape that he received political pressure to ignore rampant Islamophobia on campus, and that has trickled down into how incidents on campus are dealt with. Let me give you a couple for instances that have led to this designation. All of the information that we're giving can be found on Islamophobia.org in our designation, and is substantially supported by social media posts or news articles. So what we're saying here today is not something that we've made up. It's not something that we haven't been able to corroborate. They are events that took place. So for instance, in 2023, right after the October 7th tragedies, there was an incident on campus where a significant financial donor physically assaulted a student who was engaging in lawful protected speech on campus, making Islamophobic slurs. That student made a complaint to the university about what happened and to university police. No investigation was conducted into that. No criminal charges were brought regarding that incident, despite the fact that it was videotaped. In fact, that individual who did that is still sitting on many, many boards at the University of Michigan, including their board that is for diversity, equity, inclusion. And in fact, that individual is sitting on that board despite refusing to sign a pact and an acknowledgement of the rights of diverse students on campus, and in having, in fact, negated those rights by their acts. That is a shameful act on the behalf of the University of Michigan. There was also incidents on campus of Muslim women students wearing the hijab, much as myself and Sister Zainab, who will be speaking later, who were stalked and harassed on campus by protesters at a pro-Israel protest. An individual approached a police officer on campus while another individual was following her and harassing her and stalking her down the street. And the police took no action and told them this is their First Amendment right. If they want to harass you on campus, that's their right. Now, if you juxtapose that with what happened when there was a claim recently that an individual student was punched because of his Jewish faith, and Santa Ono put out an entire statement about how that is anti-Semitic. Come to find out, that incident, as reported by the news, was related to an incident that happened inside of a Jewish fraternity house, and he was likely attacked by individuals from that Jewish fraternity house. Yet we've seen no recall of the statement from Santa Ono, no apology from him regarding the misinformation that he preceded. But more than that, some of our concerns really are around the First Amendment rights that are being trampled at the University of Michigan's campus. It is very, very clear from the summer policy changes that the University of Michigan is acting in a way to change their policies that in a manner that quashes First Amendment right speech and actually helps to institutionalize punishment for those individuals who have a viewpoint that is divergent from that of the university. And that can be seen by their recent policy changes that involve time, place, manner restrictions, their closing of designated public forums, their closing of limited public forums, and their new policy that allows one individual to punish students for discipline, even when a prior body has determined that they should not be disciplined. So what we're saying today is not only is the environment on campus hostile and unsafe for pro-Muslims, for Muslims and Arabs, for anti-genocide students, we're saying the university is institutionalizing policies that inherently disenfranchise viewpoint. And that is why we stand here before you today and designate University of Michigan as an institution of particular concern. Are you want to introduce or we're going to have a current University of Michigan student and public leader on campus, Ali Alam, speak with you a little bit about what it's like to be at University of Michigan's campus currently.
Thank you. My name is Ali Alam, A-L-I-A-L-L-A-M. I am the co-chair of the Muslim Coalition and the Islamophobia Working Group. The University of Michigan's stated mission is to develop, quote unquote, developing leaders and citizens who will, quote unquote, challenge the present and enrich the future. Now, presently, Palestinians in Gaza are undergoing a genocide where well over 42,000 of them have been massacred. They have been under siege. Every single university in Gaza has been destroyed. And this has occurred under a relentless campaign of bombing and displacement and unimaginable human suffering. Presently, our nation has been implicated in this genocide, sending our tax dollars to go fund these atrocities. And presently, the University of Michigan has also been complicit in this genocide, investing in the very bombs that are falling on the heads of Palestinian children. Now, for those of us who oppose this violence, and for those of us who oppose these realities, the struggle is not abstract. On our own campus, Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian, and anti-Arab racism are weaponized to silence those who challenge genocide. Presently, students who challenge these realities are being met with suppression, retaliation, police violence, and repression at every single turn. Now, in a recently leaked recording, we heard President Ono himself admit that Islamophobia is not a priority of the university because of these external pressures, because of these external political and financial powers. Now, when President Ono admits to prioritizing and appeasing these external powers over protecting his own Muslim and Arab and Palestinian students, he sends a very clear message. He sends the message that our voices are expendable. He sends a message that our safety is conditional. And he sends the message that the university's promise to quote unquote enrich the future does not extend to Arab and Muslim students, just as it has historically not extended to Black and brown students historically at the University of Michigan. And this institutional neglect of Islamophobia has had very tangible and clear impacts that we've seen unfold over the past year. We've seen as Muslim women have had their hijabs ripped off by campus police at protests during when the police are trying to intimidate and harass protesters. We've seen as the University of Michigan School of Information Advisory Board member who directly harassed Arab and Muslim students, equating them with terrorists, faced no disciplinary consequences for her actions. We've seen targeting of personal social media accounts of prominent Muslim and Palestinian members of our community. We've seen increased surveillance by campus police, police literally just showing up to Muslim and Palestinian events on campus, despite them having spaces reserved, following the due process that is there necessary, police showing up because of quote unquote controversial events. We've seen as Regent Jordan Acker recently made a comment claiming that the pro-Palestinian activism is quote unquote foreign funded, insinuating this harmful trope that puts a target on the backs of Arab and Muslim students and perpetuates a vile stereotype that Arab and Muslim students are not truly part of our institution. And so this has led to a very clear problem in our university, and we've seen this in a survey that the faculty put together last year, where over 29% of students, faculty, and staff who were surveyed said that they are considering leaving the university due to concerns of discrimination. And we've seen as President Ono and in a larger part, the regents have continued to perpetuate this inequity in how they are treating Islamophobia versus other forms of discrimination. And as Arab and as Muslim students, we cannot continue to stand with a university that does not truly represent us and does not address our concerns. And the body of which I'm the co-chair, the Islamophobia Working Group, was founded in 2016 to work with the university, to challenge Islamophobia on campus, to try and resist the rising tide of Islamophobia that was especially prevalent at the time and is even more prevalent now so nationwide. But we've seen that at every single turn over the past year as the genocide has unfolded, that the university has no interest in combating Islamophobia. The university, in fact, is deliberately and actively undermining our efforts to combat Islamophobia and has no true concern for the safety and the well-being of Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian students. And so it's essential that these requests that were made today are addressed, and that every single stakeholder who is part of the University of Michigan demands our university to do better. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Zainab al-Khulali, Zaynab Elkolali. and I'm a recent alumnus of the University of Michigan and a current CAIR employee. As we stand here to address the University of Michigan's ongoing suppression and brutalization of anti-genocide protesters that has earned it the title of Institution of Particular Concern, I'd like to first take a second to remind ourselves of why we're here today. Israel's brutal genocide in Gaza, which has claimed the lives of over 43,000 martyrs, as my colleague Ali has mentioned. However, it's critical to remember that this vicious displacement and attempted annihilation of the Palestinian people didn't start on October 7th, but rather this violent colonial project has been wreaking havoc on Palestinian life since 1948, and our own University of Michigan is complicit in this through its endowment and relations with Israeli institutions. While the university purports admiration of social justice movements when they're far enough in history that they can distance themselves from the role of the oppressor, they have actively sought to silence and suppress pro-Palestinian activism on campus by any means necessary, even weaponizing police to brutalize anti-genocide protesters. I was one of them. On November 17th, as we attempted to engage in a peaceful sit-in that was staged without issue just weeks prior, a UofM police officer grabbed me from where I was standing and slammed me to the ground, ripping off my hijab in the process. Since then, police have continuously shown no hesitation to assault protesters and deploy chemical weapons on them. To add insult to injury, the university chose to turn a blind eye to this police violence, instead accusing peaceful protesters themselves of instigating the violence, and hiring an external party to bring forth a complaint within the Office of Student Conflict Resolution 9 months after the fact, in order to punish the very activism that it claims to celebrate. After our hearing on August 30th, a panel of students found us not responsible for the accusations within this complaint, but that wasn't satisfactory enough for the University of Michigan. They instead decided to appeal this finding, and when the Board of Appeals actually ended up affirming this original decision and recommended no sanctions, Vice President of Student Life, Martino Harmon, in a gross abuse of power, still decided to unilaterally overturn this decision and move to discipline us. He said, "For these reasons, I am electing to modify the recommendation provided by the Appeals Board regarding the allegation under violation Q. I find that there is sufficient evidence for a final determination without need for further review. As such, I am modifying the original finding to responsible for violation Q for all identified respondents," end quote. This decision displays the lengths that the university will go to silence our movement and threaten our First Amendment rights. I expect better from a world-renowned institution such as the University of Michigan that claims to celebrate change makers and trailblazers, that develops curriculum specifically centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion. This goes to show that our administrative entities don't protect us. They protect their stakeholders. Our community are the ones that protect us, and I'd like to extend gratitude to that community for always remaining steadfast in their solidarity with us and the Palestinian cause. I call on the Department of Education and the Department of Justice to implement the recommendations that were stated prior, as it's absolutely imperative, and people's lives and livelihoods are at stake. Peace be upon you all.
Thank you very much. Sister Zaina, if you can check comments, and sir, do you have any comments, any questions for us?
Yeah, just with what everyone has said, probably particularly for CAIR leadership.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to President Ono and leadership, and in those reach outs, what have they said back to you guys, trying to either have a conversation or anything along those lines?
Sure, that's an amazing question, and I'm glad you asked it, because yes, we have, prior to filing our Department of Education complaint and prior to this designation, we have on a multitude of occasions reached out directly to President Ono's office, to the Department of Police and Public Safety regarding our concerns, and to other leadership within the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We've sent them letters, we've sent them emails, and we've actually received no response. Well, the response we received has been abject silence. They are not interested in engaging in dialogue with us, and it is our understanding from conversations that we've had with students, student leaders, and faculty that they are receiving the same silence when they reach out with their internal concerns. So it is clear, based on our efforts to reach out to the University of Michigan and their response, that they're not interested, as President Ono's leaked audio says, in identifying or eradicating Islamophobia on campus.
If I can add one comment, As our staff attorney mentioned, we have not gotten any response from the actual school administration. There's only been one meeting that we've had in the past year in regards to all of our complaints, and that was with the chief of campus police, so the Department of Public Safety, and this was after peaceful protesters at a so-called die-in. There were some arrests that took place. The majority of them not Arab or Muslim students, by the way. And in this particular meeting, I specifically brought up with the head of the police department the double standard. And I use as an example how after the University of Michigan football team won the national championship, there was not anything peaceful about that celebration. There literally was property damage, couches put out, set on fire. There was not a single arrest by campus police, much less the Michigan Attorney General, Dana Nessel, trying to launch an investigation to indict people for public mischief and also for property destruction that didn't take place. However, we have a peaceful protest on campus at the DIAG in regards to a silent peaceful protest, and there were arrests there. So this is the type of issues that were brought up, and the answer that I got was, well, that was really under discretion of the Ann Arbor Police Department. Not really sure of that activity at the Wolverines celebratory riot was actually on campus, which we know that some of that activity did take place on campus, yet there was not a single arrest. So this shows a double standard that is against anti-genocide student activists, predominantly who are Muslim and Arab, but some who are Jewish allies, how they're cracked down on, and in response to when other acts of mischief take place on campus, including some acts of mischief that directly target Muslim students. There's a clear double standard.
Just as a follow-up for that, if there were a conversation to be had with President Ono, what does that resolve look like? Or is it possible to even get to some sort of conversation that could end in a resolve or to get somewhere close to a resolve?
Sure. So what a conversation like that would look like with President Ono would be him having an open ear, sitting and listening to the concerns with the intent to hear them and not just check a box off of his meeting. It would come with some real commitment to engage in training, engage in investigation of what's going on campus, and some real commitments that would create policies and practices on campus that were intended to eradicate this attack on First Amendment rights and Islamophobia that's running rampant on campus. So it would require the university to make firm commitments about actions that they're willing to take at this time to ensure that the concerns that we've addressed are being met.
And also to include, and we want to mention this, is that again, we strongly suggest that the University of Michigan hires an outside independent investigator to do an audit in regards to the series of these complaints that we have, in which there is real proof, and also look at the disparate treatment in regards to Arab and Muslim students on campus, and in particular as it relates to their exercising their free speech rights in terms of the current war crimes taking place in Palestine, and compare those with other incidences that have been given attention, even misinformation has been put out by university administrators. At this point, I'm not totally sure that President Ono can do a good faith investigation on what's going on in the university, especially when he's part of the problem. There needs to be an outside party that looks into it, besides the Department of Education and the federal complaint that we filed against the university. This would at least show some sort of act of good faith if they were to hire an outside investigator to do a true audit and to follow through with the recommendations that would come forward, and not just as CAIR-Michigan staff attorney said, just to check a box. Are there any comments on that? No? You get to click the comment box. Let's see if there's any. Are there any questions from the media online? No, okay, there's no questions from media professionals. So again, thank you, you all very much for coming up. The media professionals who came in person and online, and CAIR-Michigan staff attorney and myself, we are available for any follow-up questions to the media for those who are watching online who maybe have some follow-up questions. Thank you very much.
What's the approximate number of the student body? What's their mood? Is it fearful? Are they dropping out?
With regards to advice, I can speak to advice. Our advice has always been to report incidents. Don't stop reporting just because you feel like your needs are not being met. Reporting is a device that you can use to prove what's happening on campus when the Department of Education Office of Civil Rights gets involved. So our advice is to advocate for yourselves, continue to advocate for the Palestinian people, and make sure that your needs are being met. And with regards to what's currently the environment for students on campus, I think I'm going to turn it over to Brother Ali, who can speak a little bit to what's going on, like how the Muslim students on campus are feeling currently.
And before Brother Ali talks about the specific mood on campus, to answer that other question, we don't have any hard data on the actual amount of Muslim students. I mean, obviously, because it's not registered with the university. We could say, however, two things. Number one, the University of Michigan is a predominantly white, non-Muslim student body population. And this has always been the trend at the University of Michigan. And then number two, there are a sizable number of Arab students on campus, including Arab students who are Christian and Muslim students of various ethnicities, including a sizable amount of international students from Malaysia that are also on campus, but we don't have an exact number as far as the amount of Muslims who are on campus at the University of Michigan. Ali.
Yeah, I'll also add to the point of reporting. Something that we've seen that's very prevalent among the student body is most of them are in fear of reporting. Most of them don't feel comfortable going to the University of Michigan's Equity and Civil Rights website and filling out a report that asks them to put in their name and information. They can also file an anonymous report now, but they don't feel comfortable because they feel like they're going to be retaliated against by the university, which several students have actually raised those kinds of concerns, that when they have made those reports, that has been the fallout of that. And so the university is actively perpetuating this Islamophobia, actively perpetuating this anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab racism, the suppression of students who are anti-genocide, and is not only doing that, but is actively stifling the methods of students to be able to report that because of the ways in which they have sent police to surveil and target and profile Muslim students, and the ways that they have responded to peaceful protests. So in terms of the mood of students, I can just tell you based on my conversations with my peers day to day, is that students don't feel comfortable. Students feel that this is an institution that was not purposed for their safety or for their comfort or for their ability to speak freely about very clear injustices that are taking place and a genocide that has continued to claim the lives of tens and tens of thousands of, and at this point, likely hundreds of thousands of innocent people.
Thank you, Ali. Any other questions? Okay, wonderful. Good topic. Thank you very much, gentlemen.